Hey, before I kick off the podcast, I just want to shout out Next Door Clothing. Next Door, a clothing brand based out of Bondi in Sydney. They're making really nice jeans and shirts and hats. So go and check out their full range at nextdoorsydney.com. They're also artists, so you can go and check out a range of art. They put on rad parties, and I love what they're doing. So nextdoorsydney.com for the full range. So this is for Clemenotis. All right, so if you're in Australia, go and get some Indosoles for summer. They make thongs, slides. In America, they call them flip-flops. They're sandals made from recycled motor vehicle tyres. So go to indosole.com, that's INDOSOLE.com. You'll be automatically redirected to the distributor in your region. And when you're at checkout, use the promo code THT. You get a nice little discount and you'll be supporting the show. It's fast shipping worldwide. Our next sponsor, Crush Organics CBD products. I'm a huge advocate for the use of CBD as a natural supplement. So go to crushorganics.com. That's KRUSHORGANICS.com. Use code THT at checkout and get that epic 40% discount, which is like a mad discount. Everyone who, I don't know. But anyway, it's such a great natural supplement. It's been really good for me in terms of reducing inflammation, especially like post-exercise. And just to be clear, like it's got no psychoactive ingredients like THC. I get asked that quite a fair bit. So when you're on the website, use the code, support the show, support Crush Organics. And lastly, my friends at Kingpin Skate Shop, love those guys. You know, Guy Miller, Joey Lyons, legends, just the nicest dudes. But yeah, Kingpin supply all the best brands of skate shoes, skate decks, clothing. So if you go to kingpinstore.com, that's KINGPINSTORE.com, use code THT at checkout and get that 15% discount, fast shipping worldwide, and support local business. Let's go. Terrible Happy Talks. Terrible Happy Talks.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Whoa. Dude, I'm
Three, two, one. Alright, do this. You can laugh like you're allowed to laugh. You've got a great laugh, actually. Here we go. Today, what are you laughing at, actually? At the intro music?
Yes.
That's all right. Yeah, my friend wrote it. Atheron in Bali, I love you. Thanks for writing that. It's original. Thanks. Anyway, so I'm nervous for some reason. I don't know why. Today's guest is Evie. Evie is a mother, poet, community development and mental health academic who specialises in the impact of interpersonal violence and trauma-informed care. Man, that's a rad mouthful. Enigmatic, kind and all-powerful, Evie advocates for raising awareness about violence against women through the Unseen Project. In this week's episode, Evie is with me live and in person in my happy place, the back deck, to share her experiences, challenges, and hopes for the future. Evie, welcome.
Thank you. It's a beautiful place to be.
Is it? I think so.
It's beautiful. It has a real sense of peace and sacredness about it, this area. It's gorgeous.
Amidst the chaos?
Yeah, most definitely. Yes, we heard some drunken screams on Saturday night from the street. But I have headphones on now and the screams are muffled and it's like a little sanctuary.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like that's what I sort of wanted to create. Like this is like, I'm not a handyman and I've never really like built anything, but this was like the first project where I built everything with my own bare hands.
It's beautiful. That's healing work too.
Yeah, it is. Like making something with your own hands or just something that you created personally is the most satisfying experience.
Most definitely, yeah.
Where do you find that peace?
Writing for me.
I knew you were going to say that.
Most definitely in writing. And when I first started writing my poetry particularly, I felt like I had to get words out. Like they were, it was like I would get to the end of the day and feel I had to write. And I wrote every day and I would write sometimes for hours every day. And it was like the beginning of me starting to find my own voice, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you're drawn to words. Like were you good at school in like those English subjects or
No, school was
literacy?
never really something that I succeeded in a lot. I think the school
Really?
system wasn't really built for me and my areas. And then I struggled a lot in school in my senior years because I had a really tragic incident happen with a good friend that died in a car accident. It was a hit-and-run car accident. And she was a very close friend of mine, and that really derailed my world. And when I was about 16, 17. And I just didn't care about school then for the last year of my schooling. And I remember finishing school and going, I want to help people. I want to do something that will make the world a better place. And so I applied to go to uni to study a Bachelor of Community Development, but I got like 30% in my HSC because I did so badly because all I cared about was drama. And I loved drama class because I could create a world that was different to what I was living, right? And yeah, I couldn't get in. And so I went to TAFE and studied youth work, and that's kind of what got me ahead in my career by surprise and unexpectedly, because community services generally is an industry where people study at a certificate or diploma level because it's very practical. We know theories and concepts, but what we really want to know is when a crisis walks in the door, how will you help them? What can you do for them? How can we actually help people in ways that helps them, empowers them, shifts their life, rather than just giving them a meal so that they turn up the same next week? And that was a big key difference, was in learning those skills. I also found my own liberation, I would say. Anna Watson, who's an Aboriginal elder, she says, if you have come to help me, then you're wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound with mine, then let us work together. And I think that is the complete way I see the work that I do. I'll never be free until the people I'm working with are completely free. And so I may have found some sense of freedom in my own life, but I know so many that don't have that. And so I won't give that up just because I have that now. I feel like that's just a place of privilege to be in. So, yeah.
I'm gonna hit you with a hard question.
Yeah.
Sorry, but I think you can do it. Define your sense of freedom. What does it look like for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. It doesn't look like what other people would think freedom is. For me, freedom looks like learning how to play a game that I probably never wanted to participate in the first place. It looks like different versions of myself to different people. It looks like my life being compartmentalized to pockets of safety rather than a safety overall. But it looks like I can be me, and it looks like I can live the life that I want to, and I can live an abundant life, and I can make a difference, and I can have a thriving son and good friends and a job that I love and a good income. That's what I would say freedom looks like for me. Yeah.
Amazing. I don't know that well, but you definitely you portray a real sense of freedom. I see someone who's very comfortable in their own skin, socially confident and laughs a lot, which is beautiful, Now, like, I want to just get stuck into the Unseen project that you're heavily involved in. I think it's amazing, and I know you have a very big part in it. But can you just give us like an overview or an outline of exactly what Unseen is? Yeah,
sure. So the Unseen project aims to tell stories of women that have experienced homelessness due to domestic violence or financial abuse, or that have experienced domestic violence in itself. And I think the most beautiful thing about the Unseen project is while we tell our stories, we also tell our stories of how we have healed ourselves from those experiences. So women that use a variety of art forms to tell those stories, some of which are, so there's one one lady that collects people's shoes and tells the stories of their feet and where they've walked in those shoes. And then there's me that tells my stories through poetry or other people's stories through poetry, because I've been, I guess, gifted other people's stories as well to share. And so we put that together, and it's an exhibition. So there's a little tiny house that has photos and stories in it of women. And then we also have an upcoming documentary that we're filming that will tell our stories more. But the whole platform is just about giving a voice to women that are not seen in society. Okay, so for some people that's migrant women, Muslim women, but for some people it's also women like me that are well educated, have a good income, but have complex trauma from what they've experienced. And we are unseen in our society. We live in the same apartment block as you do, and sometimes you might even hear noises and think, oh, is everything okay there? But that would be all you'd think. And you probably wouldn't notice anything more than that.
Sorry, what do you mean by that? Like, we hear noises like maybe screams for help?
Yeah, or maybe broken glass, or maybe fighting loud, or you may never hear any of that. And there are layers and elements to violence. It's not all just loud noises either.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like it can come in a variety of different forms. Can you give us some more examples? Like, I know, like, physical violence is a very obvious one.
Yeah, so physical violence.
But what else goes with that?
Yeah. So, physical violence is, physical injuries generally as well. And then you have what we've talked about a lot lately is coercive control. So it's this control over who somebody is. It's control over the choices someone makes with the way they'll dress, how they'll spend their money, financial abuse, what they'll believe in terms of their religious beliefs, or restricting them to certain activities, is also about, I guess, often in relationships we become a version of who the other person wants us to be. And when we grow as people, as we all do, we grow and change, and I guess coercive control stops that growth from happening, and really controls who somebody is. So you are this person that I tell you are, and that's all you will ever be, okay? And that's the kind of behavior we call coercive control. But then there's, sexual violence as well, which is not just acts of sexual assault, which is simply just touching someone without consent. It doesn't have to be full rape. It's also just that. And it can be reproductive rights, though, as well, like restricting somebody to not using a condom, for example, or not allowing a partner to be on the pill or something like that because you want children. Do you know what I mean? That's also classed as sexual violence and something that we don't really talk about that much as a society. So a lot of these behaviours are almost accepted in our relationships day to day. And it really takes a lot to take a step back and go, what does a healthy relationship look like? And I think it comes down to there's no sense of I'm trying to control you in any way. But I also recognize that you actually don't ever owe me anything. So you don't owe me time. You don't owe me money. Whatever you give to me is a gift. And when you recognize that, that's a very different place to approach a relationship from than this sense of if you're my partner, you belong to me. And I think that's where we've gone wrong. Yeah.
So it's allowing the person to maintain their individuality?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and where I get challenged is the institute of marriage. So do you think that confuses people in terms of that notion of like you're an individual, I'm an individual, okay? But trying to think how to say this in terms of like when two people form a marital union, do you think that has maybe blurred the lines a little?
Yeah, well, it's a contract.
It's a contract.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
A contract to say that I will, for the rest of my life, love you and, respect you and give all of myself to you. And I am just not sure that is something anybody could ever really promise. You don't know what life will bring you. You don't know who the person that you're making those promises to will be.
Or how you'll change as a person.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Exactly. And this is another thing. We have this stigma around marriage ending being a problem in society. It's like somebody says, "Oh, your marriage is over. I'm sorry." Or we notice these things and there's a sense of gossip about it. Or what happened to that person? Why did their marriage end? Or was it another person? Like there has to be a reason. But sometimes your journey with someone just is ended, and that's okay because life is seasonal and relationships are seasonal. And as we grow, we meet new people. The universe provides somehow people around us that we need in each different journey of our lives. But I think if we viewed relationships and friendships even as seasonal, we wouldn't feel like we have to cling to something if it was dying. We would feel like we'd be able to say, this doesn't serve me anymore. But also I'm not serving you. And I don't mean serving as in like a servant, but I mean, is it bringing you joy? Is it bringing you love? Is it bringing you intimacy? Do you want to be around that person?
Not thriving.
Yeah.
Surviving.
Flourishing is what I would say. Yeah.
That's a rad word.
Yeah. And I feel like flourishing comes in really random places. Like I have this tattoo on my arm of flowers growing out of dead concrete, and that's the image I kind of see of flourishing is these roots grow up out of nowhere, but they can grow into these really beautiful plants like this one we have right here.
Thank you. It's my favorite.
And I think that's kind of what our purpose is as humans, is to find ways that we flourish. But that changes over our lifespan.
Yeah. And for someone to then nurture that and support that change.
And to just be part of that change with the person. And I'm not saying that there's no commitment. I'm not saying it's but I'm just saying it's more about let's do this journey together, but we don't have to use words like forever and Mr. and Mrs. There doesn't have to be a sense of us owning each other.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying that, it's when you think about it, it's a marriage contract and that does indicate a sense of ownership, doesn't it?
It really does. Particularly, I think marriage is an unfair institution for women in our society because it is a very difficult one to get out of, and it is one where we give up our identity to take on the man's name generally. And for me as well, I was religious, and so it's very much like that you're told the man is the head of the household. And so it's like we're supposed to just do whatever he says all the time, and that's coercive control right there, what we're taught in religion. Yeah. Yeah,
which really, in our evolving world, it doesn't work anymore, that ideology.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think I question if it ever really did, but I think if something is accepted by the majority of society, we just assume that it works.
And we don't actually want to question the status quo, even though it's not working.
Yes.
But just because it's an historic structure that's been in place, we just accept it.
Yeah, and I think that's what our society is doing in so many areas. We have that in forms of patriarchy. We have that in forms of racism in Australia in huge ways. And we think that we're a welcoming nation, but we have so many barriers for people from diverse cultures to overcome to be a part of our country. And until you work in those communities, you have no idea what it's like. And I can never fully know because I'm a white woman and this has been where I've lived my whole life. And, this isn't my land that I live on, but this is where I've been my whole life. I haven't tried to live in a different country. I don't know that experience. But I see it in a lot of the people that I work with, and it's really difficult to try to migrate to Australia or be a part of a new country. Yeah.
Oh, it would be so full on. It's so hard.
It's so hard, and we put so many structures in place to stop people from feeling like they can be a part of our country, like we have something to protect that they will take away. But all I've found in my work with diverse communities is how much they give me and how much they give to our communities. And I often feel the need to apologise for the way they've been treated by our society.
Yeah, totally. And what the irony in it is, it's like it's that diversity that just creates this like interesting culture of food and celebration and also like we don't even, our country, like when I was living overseas, most people speak 2 to 3 languages, and like I'm embarrassed to say I just speak the one language.
Me too. I'm so embarrassed about that because whenever I'm teaching, I teach a lot of diverse communities. Like 95% of my students that I teach are international students or refugees, and so when I'm speaking, I know that they hear me and are translating in their head while they're listening to me what I'm saying. And so when I first started teaching, my boss was like, Emily, slow down. Yeah. She was like, you talk way too fast. And, this is someone that has undiagnosed complex trauma at the time. So I was like, really like, okay, we're going to get through today's talking. We're talking about legal and ethical. I'm just really, really fast because I'm like, always constantly like someone's like coming to get me, I'm in fight flight constantly. And I had to learn to slow down, but it was a process of me learning what it was like for them. And that's the big difference, I think, is that was one small way of me learning like empathy towards them, was like you're finding this conversation hard because you're translating what I'm saying. And I can't even imagine how hard that would be when you're in an academic learning environment to sit and listen to theories and concepts that are foreign to you and difficult in a foreign language and translate those for hope that you'll have a better life in this country for applying those. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find it ironic that I spend 3 weeks teaching them how to manage and promote diversity when I'm the white woman in the room. So I try to just facilitate conversation around that.
So you do that? That's part of your job description?
Yeah, that's one of my subjects that I teach is manage and promote diversity. And it does have an importance with diverse cultures because I might have 30 different cultures in the room too. And so it's also about that. But quite often I just spend time saying, tell me about your culture. Tell me what it feels like to be in this situation. Tell me how you'd welcome someone that was new. And I just learn from them. And I've learnt the most amazing things. But I've just had the most positive 3 years working with these communities. And people often say like, oh, men from other countries are like very sexist. And I've not had a single problem ever.
Can we just like go back a little? So can you just tell us exactly like what you're teaching and who you're teaching to and where you teach at?
Yep. So I work at St George and Sutherland Community College. It's in Janali. Beautiful community college, which started about 40 years ago and runs also disability services. So basically our CEO who retired just this year, she started the college. Her daughter had a disability and she wanted to find a place where her daughter could belong in a community and not be kind of pushed out to the side. And so we have this beautiful little space where we have friends that have disabilities and they're just walking around, hanging out with us. And I love that because we don't keep them away in a building and shun them from society. They're our friends. I have my coffee breaks with them. I have lunch with them. They're part of our community. And then so I teach 2 courses there, mental health and community services. Our community services course is accredited by the Australian Community Workers Association, which is really hard to get. It's basically your five-star rating in community studies. And so it's a 2-year course, but very highly rated and equips you to do community services work, community development work, that kind of stuff. So I started just teaching that, and then our college was like, we're thinking about branching into mental health. I was like, I would love to write that course and research that. So they gave me a term a couple of days a week to just do that.
Amazing.
That was amazing. And as I did that theoretical work, I did my own work on myself at the same time. So I wrote that course as I was doing my own mental health journey. And teaching that and working with students, as they learn how to help other people with their mental health, they confront their own demons too, and it's just the most liberating work. I feel so privileged to spend my days doing that and to be paid well to do that. I would do it for a hobby, but I'm not really saying that because I don't want them to stop paying me.
Yeah. I still want to get paid.
Yeah, I need to live.
But I mean, like, wow, like it's very rare that you get to speak to someone who's actually, living with purpose and having a job with purpose. And a passion.
Yeah.
What a gift.
It is such a gift.
But you've worked for it. It didn't just fall into your lap.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we are shy as women to say that because we feel we feel conditioned to just go, thank you, I'm quiet. Yeah, thank you. It kind of just happened. Yeah, I fell upon an ad or,
Do you feel shy to say that?
I'm working against that.
Okay.
And for me, I have become quite proud of what I've achieved in my career and what I continue to do. Not in a sense of look at me, what I've done, but in a sense of no, this is where I want to be in life and I'm making a difference and I have security in what I do. I'm good at what I do. And that is the kind of, I guess, freedom and security I want in my work. Yeah.
Amazing. And it's like you've found your space, like you found the place that you thrive in and able to utilize your skills. Like you seem like an excellent communicator.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's something
that
I've worked on a lot the last few years because that's what I do. But I think as well because I communicate with people from such diverse backgrounds, I've learnt to communicate in really simple ways, but in ways that people understand from lots of different, very simple, very welcoming, very nurturing kind of ways. Yeah.
Wow. So to recap a little bit, you're doing the work with the community college, you're heavily involved in the Unseen project, and you're also a mother.
Yeah.
Right. So considering those things, how do you manage yourself? How do you manage your time on a day-to-day basis?
Good question.
Are you stressed?
Well, we're at the end of 2021 and 6 months of this year I've worked at home. I haven't been on our campus since June, and that's been so strange to me because that campus is a place of healing and sanctuary for me as well. And when they first said we were going to work at home, I thought I'd really struggle with that. But I think it's taught me to slow down a lot, and it's taught me the value of human connection. I got to say I really miss seeing the girls at work just so much.
As opposed to a Zoom meeting.
Because we talk about different things if we're having lunch. And,
so true.
I've had some challenges the last 6 months which I didn't recognise things that were unhelpful in my life, which I would have had if I was having lunch with my girlfriends at work because we would have talked about these things. But I'm not going to talk about it on the phone because it just didn't feel important to me until in hindsight, right? And I think that's part of the problem when we don't have human connection. We can get trapped in situations that are really unhelpful and we don't realise until it's gotten really bad,
Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about it lately because I recorded a lot of remote podcasts during the lockdown, and when we talk about communication, it's more than just verbal, it's also body language. And I really just believe that the intricacies of body language are lost through a screen.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you see them and you can see their facial expression and stuff like that, but you're not seeing how they're holding their posture as well.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much you've actually refined that skill of reading body language.
It's been so hard because I would say at least half of my students started in the last 6 months, and I've never met them, not a single time. And I feel they're so kind and welcoming to me of my position in their life to mentor them and empower them over this time. But I feel really sad that I haven't got to sit and have lunch with them, because I feel like as their cultures, that's how we share time and food, and they only get 9 months with me face to face, and then they move on into doing their placement and their second year of the course. But it's so quick. It goes so quick. So, sorry, you asked about me managing my time. So Monday to Thursday I work for the college, and they're really long days, and I prefer to do them in really long days because I just settle that as my work days. But I finish at 5:15 at the moment. I'm very on the clock about it. My son comes in at 5:15 and goes, "Mum, time's up." Like, he watches the clock, you know. I got no chance of doing until 5:16. And so he comes in and he's like, "It's time, Mum." And so we have our times together in the night. Lots of cuddles and lots of, I guess, just making the time work and then doing the things needed around the house. And Fridays, he starts school next year. So at the moment, Fridays are kind of our day together where we just try to do something. But I think the whole pandemic has just taught me to slow down, and I actually feel like having 3 days off feels like a lot now.
Yeah.
I feel refreshed by a weekend these days. Yeah.
Do you think maybe because there's no commute either?
Yeah. I think that makes a difference
that's what
because
I
that's about
noticed.
40 minutes each way for me. So that makes a difference. And also mornings are hard for me. I'm a night owl, and so I get to sleep an hour longer. And that makes a big difference for me. Yeah.
Massive.
It's huge. And so I come to Friday and I feel like, oh, that was great. I really enjoyed my week. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's nice to hear a positive come out of a lockdown.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel the same actually. Like, in some ways, there's things I really miss as well. But yeah, it did. It slowed me down. It slowed a lot of people down.
Yeah.
And the time you get back from not commuting,
Huge.
you get that time back. Like.
And I'm like, what did I ever do? Just listen to songs and sing really loudly and pull up next to people and them go, "Oh, she looks happy," or "She doesn't look happy today," depending on my mood. Yeah, that was me.
In the car.
Every time. Every time. You'll either get tears or laughter, depends on what day I had.
At the traffic lights?
Always, yeah. In daylight savings, you get a show the whole time, you know.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, and if you're in the car by yourself, you've got to be the backup singers too, so, you know.
You do backups as well?
Oh, yeah, of course. But I can't sing to save my life. Like,
so good no one can hear.
Yeah, that's right. It's very healing.
I think you'd be lying if you said you've never sung loudly in the car by yourself or cried.
Yeah.
Cried behind the steering wheel.
For sure, man. Like when I first, my life kind of really fell apart a few years ago. I used to cry to and from work every day for about 3 months.
Sorry, I just love how you just so casually said that, like with a big laugh, like, "Oh yeah, my life is feeling apart a few years ago." You know, and I was saying, I mean, is that a rabbit hole we can go down?
Yeah.
It's up to you. I'm curious.
Yeah.
If you don't have to share.
Yeah, I'm happy to share parts of it, yeah.
So life took a turn?
Yeah, so I was working for...
Sorry, we're kind of going in no sequence here. I usually like to start from the beginning. But let's go.
So I was working for a church, religious organisation. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I was working in community engagement. Yeah. So basically hired by this church to transition their churches from a charity model. You know, you come on a weekend, I feed you, you come back the next week, you're the same, I feed you again. But we're keeping people trapped, right, in a cycle.
Trapped.
Yeah, I would use the words trapped. When we're doing charity, we're doing things to people. We're doing things for people that they can do for themselves. And so I really strongly believe that work where we're doing things to people and for people in the community should only be done for a really small period of time.
Do you think it's a form of manipulation? Is that what you're implying?
I would definitely imply that when it's done by religious organisations. Okay. Yeah. Because I believe they really prey upon people that are vulnerable. And I don't necessarily know that they do that intentionally, but they come from a belief system where you're broken and you need healing. And so they think they're the healer coming for you, or this divine being that they have is what you need. So their belief system seeks them to seek out people that are vulnerable.
I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, yes, there's some people who are destitute and vulnerable and maybe really grateful for a service like that.
Yeah, and that's also not a problem. So the thing with development work is we talk about it in stages. There is definitely an important stage of relief work in community where there are crises that happen and people need you to give them things. They need a home to live in. They need someone to bring them groceries. They need someone to keep them safe because they can't do those things for themselves. And the tragedy of a lot of the systems still in our nation is that long-term people can't do those things for themselves because we keep them trapped in those circumstances because we have laws, for example, that don't keep women safe long-term. We have issues around refugees seeking safety, etc., where relief is needed then long-term. But it's never intentionally supposed to be like that. If our goal is to empower people to find their own freedom and their own healing, then we don't do things for people once they can do them themselves. And we understand that the way that trauma is healed is through people beginning to recognize their own gifts, beginning to recognize they have something to give the world.
So would you say empowering them to heal themselves?
Yes. And the thing is, what heals you is different to what heals me.
So would you say the support systems in place are not doing that? They are supporting and supportive, but not empowering.
I would say it depends on what support systems. We're seeing a lot of change in this space, especially in the mental health space. I've been really encouraged in that. We've seen a lot of it turn around to be mental well-being is about what works for you, where you find healing. We use this concept where we talk about you need your 3 medicines in life, and just like any medication you're on, you need to take them regularly. And so what are your medicines? And for me, mine are yoga and writing and swimming in the freezing cold ocean. And if I don't take those things regularly, then I'm not going to be well. And we don't realize that as a society, we need our medicines. And so that's part of learning about ourselves and empowerment. And I guess what our systems try to do is give somebody a payment every week because they don't have a job, or give someone a meal every week because they are struggling with food. But we don't sit and ask, Shannon, do you want to be here every Thursday night having a meal? Or do you actually have dreams for your life that you had? Like when you look at your life, what do you want to be doing?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be poor. No. It's not a good life.
So I guess what you're fundamentally saying is like throwing money at those people isn't the answer.
No, and it's not what they want.
But it's such a conundrum, that one.
It's a big one because charity... You see, the thing is we have multiple levels of relationships in life. We have relationships with ourselves. We have relationships with each other, with the earth and the way we treat the earth. But when we have a relationship with ourselves and it's broken, it's not whole, it comes out in 2 ways. It's either in pride or shame, okay? And the thing is with charity is you have people that have a relationship with themselves that's broken of pride interacting with people that have a relationship with themselves that's broken, that's shame. And so the things we do to them instill that sense of shame in them and that sense of pride in us. And then we get really frustrated and we're like, oh, they never change or they never do anything. But we're constantly saying to them, you need me to fix you because of your situation. You can't fix yourself. You need to come here every week and see me.
Yeah.
And so it's toxic because we have this relationship of pride and relationship of shame, and we're coming up against each other and we're really frustrated at them and they're really frustrated at us, and eventually it just blows up. And or the government defunds the program and the people are left with nothing that have become dependent on a service that now no longer exists. And so either way, we don't find an answer and there's no human flourishing.
I mean, do you think it's actually, enabling these people to maintain victim mentality?
I think so, and it's an easy one to maintain.
I want to caveat, though, by saying that it's often very much valid. They are victims.
100%. And I think most people that have that mentality are, but also there's a sense of sitting in that becomes harmful to yourself as well. We all have multiple reasons and levels of that in ourselves. But I think that, what happened to us isn't our fault. But what we do next, we have choice over, and our healing is most certainly our responsibility. But not just ours, for our future generations that come after us, because somebody has to be able to say, this isn't going to continue anymore, and I'm going to stop this from being a continual progression of generations of intergenerational trauma in my family. And that's a really hard work to do.
It's big.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of it comes back to the individual to pull himself out of it? And I acknowledge that it's so hard when you're born into it, and everyone, and then you're often, these people are often placed in housing where they're also surrounded by people who are in a very similar situation, and so it's very easy for them to stay in that place.
It's comfortable.
It's comfortable because that's all they know.
That's right.
And we always revert back to what's safe, and being a victim can be a very safe place for people to be because of the familiarity, correct?
That's correct. But also, when it's all that you've known, it's hard to know that there's a life outside of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of it reminds me of my experience when I started working somewhere that wasn't toxic. After leaving a toxic workplace, I was like, oh, people can have different opinions. And they're nice to each other. And there's a lady at work, for example, she's South African, and she's always like, Evie, your tattoos, you're very naughty getting another tattoo. It just cracks me up. But then, we are really good friends, and her friend passed away recently, and I was one of the first people she rang. You know what I mean? We have this bond, and yet she has this deeply ingrained view.
So it wasn't until you were able to move out of a situation to realize how toxic the other one was. Yeah. I mean, and I guess you had the privilege to be able to do that.
That's right. And that's what I guess a lot of people don't get.
What's the solution? What's the solution then? Is the solution to, maybe integrate those people more into?
I think the solution, Shan, that we're missing is that we keep talking in this way like we're doing things to people. Is the solution that we move? Is this no. The community has to find the solution themselves. So for them, it's about creating space for them to talk. What is it that they have to give to the world? Because I'm sure they have things.
In a way, it sounds like you're referring a lot to the Aboriginal community in Australia.
Yeah.
Because, that's been the biggest one. It's we're going to do this for you, we're going to do this for you, we're going to do this for you. And they're just no, you're not listening to us.
That's right.
Stop and listen to us and actually get to know us. We actually want to do life a completely different way, but you're not listening.
All our systems in Australia are white-based systems.
100%.
And like I said, working with diverse cultures, I see that more and more and more. And we think white means right. So this is the way that we do the world. And you come into that, and it's so much better not doing it white. It's just so freeing and just going, there's difference outside of me, and it's beautiful, and I can sit and learn about that, and I'm not threatened by that. Why am I threatened by that?
Yeah.
But we have this thing of, this is what it means to live a good life. You earn an income, you work hard, you must consume alcohol only on weekends. We have these strict rules as a society that are white rules. But nobody asked us to give them that.
True.
Nobody even asked us to come help them. And I always say that to people when they're doing community work. I say maybe the first step could be you could wait and see if your community actually asked you to help. Because they may have never even asked. They might not want you there.
Oh, no, yeah.
Sometimes they don't need help because they have what they need. And so maybe the question then is asking, what do you need? Because you're going in there thinking you can help. So why do you feel that you have something more to give someone that doesn't even want you there?
Oh, God, my head starts spinning with all this shit. That's fucking true. It's true because, let's face it, something's not working in the world. You know, like the way of doing things is not working. There's without sounding too pessimistic, but let's face it, there's a lot of disharmony, distrust, pain, suffering continuously.
Yeah.
I mean, it leads into so many big conversations, and I'm not scared to tackle these big conversations, but I really love that, you know, what I like about you is you're living in it and you're working in it on a daily basis. So you're seeing it from the ground level up, and you're like, that's
very rare. I think so many people are afraid to get to that level because it's dark, man. It's really dark. And you know, I've got a lot of friends that work in different sectors, and they say to me, like, you're staring at the injustice every day in the work that you do. You know, it's very much our life, right? And it's hard. It's suffering. It's people suffering, and it's constant. It's constant. It never stops.
Yeah. What is it? I mean, what do you think it does to you though? Like personally, you know, when you are witnessing injustice on a daily basis, are you kind of numb to it? Are do you go through waves of anger, frustration with it? Does it depress you?
I don't think it's ever depressed me, but I think, you know, when you first start working in this industry, like, I'm going to save the world, like, I'm going to fix it all. You know, you've got this like really naive disposition towards it all.
Yeah.
And so you give everything of yourself to every single person that you work with, and you go home and you think, is that kid going to survive this weekend? Or like, you know, and you really just burn yourself out. So you do that after about a year.
Okay.
And then you learn healthy boundaries, I reckon, around it. And I know that I can confidently say at the end of every single one of my work days, I've gone home and I've done the absolute best I could for the people I've worked with.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I hold on to.
Oh, mate, okay.
Is I go, so the systems are still broken, and that's going to take a long time to change. But I did everything that I could today, and so I can rest tonight knowing that I did my part.
There you go.
And that's really all any of us can do.
Yeah.
Because we can't fix it, but it's also doesn't need to be fixed. Because when I sit with someone in their darkness, I can't fix you, and you can't fix me. And sitting with someone when you realise that, it's actually really powerful.
I agree. I heard a cool thing the other day, and they said, like, you know, you often hear people, you know, sort of describe people or themselves as being broken, like, I'm broken. And people often, there's a lot of people in our society who feel broken from the things that have happened to them throughout the course of their life, you know, multiple things that have built up, and then they get into their, you know, their 20s and their 30s, and then they just fall apart. I'm broken. This person, and this thing I heard was like, well, maybe they're not broken. They're just covered in shit, and that it just needs to be cleaned off, and that there's gold beneath that shit. And I just was like, that's pretty cool, because like the narrative of I'm broken and that sort of dialogue is just so final.
Yeah.
When really, no, that person's just got mud and dirt and spit and all sorts of stuff all over them that just needs to be washed off, because beneath that there's gold. And I was just like, yeah, I like that. Anyway,
I love
just
that.
thought
That's
I'd
beautiful.
share. Just thought I'd share that.
It's beautiful.
But listen, so where did you grow up?
Yeah, Wollongong.
Okay, so Wollongong is just south of Sydney in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coastal town. All right. So, like, how would you describe your childhood growing up?
Religious.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah. So we Anglican family on the Sundays. church, 1 hour long sermons, very...
Do you still practice religion?
No.
What? Do you mind if I ask why?
Yeah, good question. I left the church about 3 years ago and deconstructed my faith. I would proudly call myself now an ex-evangelical,
Okay.
which is a term we coined of, people say evangelical Christianity. And so now we say we're ex-evangelicals because we're people that used to be.
There's support groups for that.
Oh, yeah. I help run one of those.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I was semi-joking because I heard of a friend who's done it or is involved in it.
It's so important, though, because there's so many levels of religious trauma when you've grown up in religion.
Is this I hear this and I'm like, religious trauma?
Yeah.
This is a thing, right?
It really is a thing. Like it will be, I think, in the next DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual, about religious trauma being a form of trauma, because it is really something that we're seeing a lot of in mental health.
I love that you said diagnostics
Statistical Manual.
without even like stuttering a second. And I couldn't even say it.
I think for us, religious trauma is huge because so you grow up in this household where people tell you everything that's right and wrong. You don't learn what you think is right and wrong. Everything's handed to you, okay? It's like the stone 10 commandments.
Sorry, no, keep going. I'm just keep going.
Handed to you and you're like, okay, so this is how I live in the world. And then something happens one day and it shatters that view for you. And then you suddenly go, I have questions about this and that doesn't make sense. And for me, that was my friend being tragically killed when she was 16, hit and run car accident. And I'm like, why did that happen? And nobody could give me an answer to that question. And so you start to question why people would believe something they don't have answers to. And there's different reasons for that. I mean, spirituality, we can't make connections between mind and body logical often, but they just are there. And that's okay. But there's a sense of I can't find out what's right for me. I can't decide on how to live my life. And when I left the church, I was told I was walking away from the blessing of God over my life. And so
what feelings did that instill in you then?
I was terrified at first.
Fear.
I was terrified. I was waiting for my life to fall apart for months. I remember going to this festival, beautiful festival in Tassie, and in the bush, this really hippie vegan festival, and going to this place and arriving and having this massive, terrifying panic attack of I'm in the wrong place. I'm not allowed to be around these people. These people aren't like God's people. They're not, and I know that sounds funny now and you're probably thinking this is psycho, but this is honestly what it's like to have religious trauma. You get yourself in these situations and you go, I can't be here. I shouldn't be here. And I felt like that the first day I started my job in this beautiful environment full of beautiful, strong, empowered women who are absolutely the best in their field at educating different areas in, childcare, etc., from diverse backgrounds. I'm pretty much the only white person that my work employs. And I'm sitting there in this room and I'm looking at the door and I'm thinking the whole time, you need to go back. You need to go back to the church. And I'm looking around going, I've never felt happier or more at peace to be in this room, but yet I feel like I'm in the wrong place. And that's what it installs. You don't have any confidence in yourself and your view. You're handed this. This is your life and this is your path and this is what's right and wrong. And if you stray even a little bit out of that, it starts to go badly for you. And that's what I discovered over the 3 years that I was there.
That's what's programmed into you.
Yeah, because as I started to find my voice as a person and as I started to experience certain suffering of my own, I woke up to a lot of things and I wouldn't accept the way I was being mistreated. And that was ultimately how my journey ended with the church. 5 white men in a room yelling at me saying, you're too much, you're too feminist, you're too traumatized.
Like confronting you like that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me prying a little bit, like 5 men.
Yeah, which is common because these boards.
Talking to you
as one
a
woman.
single female in a room.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, that in itself is confronting.
Right.
But then they're telling you that you're not allowed to have a certain opinion.
No, my social media was even controlled.
But that sounds cult-like. But is it, call me ignorant and oblivious, but that actually occurs today in Australian society.
Yeah, this was 3 years ago in my life, yeah.
Am I just clueless?
No, you just haven't been in those circles, because people that have been in those circles will explain to you this view of religion. And it's not every place. I have some beautiful friends. My best friend is a gay affirming pastor. He started a church.
Amazing.
Because he recognised there was no place for him and his partner to be able to go where he could be welcomed. And you won't find that in his church. You'll find love, and you'll find a sacred space like we have and we're sitting in right now.
I'm so glad you think it's sacred.
And he's one of the most beautiful people in my life. I love you, Carl. And so it's not every place, but it's so many of the places. And I think it's a test of the places when you start to find your own voice. Are you accepted there, or are you pushed out for that?
Oh, okay. Well, conversely, who's thriving in that environment then?
I think it's people that have the power.
Okay.
Well, a lot of churches.
When you say power, what do you mean?
A lot of churches need money to survive.
Understandable.
Yeah. So they're like a member-driven organisation. Okay. So if you pay your amount every Sunday, then we keep running.
Okay. How's that gauged?
Like how much people pay.
But like
Okay.
don't you just pay what you can afford? Or
I'm loving this conversation because
I understand the concept of tithes and offerings.
Yeah.
Isn't it just like a percentage of what you earn?
Yeah, so generally people think 10% of what you earn is what you should give.
But that's not like, you're not ever judged on that. No one's like keeping records, are they?
Yeah.
How?
Because it's electronic.
What? I thought you just
through the bank.
They pass the basket around and you just put your handful of money in it.
Yeah, but they prefer the electronic because they know it's coming in every week.
See, this is where I am clueless. So you got to do it like an electronic transfer. Wow.
Do you know how much money I saved when I stopped going to church?
Okay, well, but now here's a question then. So when you're in the service,
yeah.
Are they passing around the FPOS machine? You're just tapping your card.
No.
When you do
they give you the
offerings.
bank details and like you put it in like and so then like sometimes people put money in.
But okay, again, I'm really playing devil's advocate in a lot of ways. But let's say there's people, if that's the case, and there's people showing up every week and putting in small amounts, would the church go, "Oh, maybe that person's struggling. Let's see if we can help them"?
No, they would never even notice that.
I don't believe it. Really?
Yeah, they would not notice. Like, it may be that they don't notice someone's attending, and so they follow them up because they haven't been to church. But that doesn't always happen either.
Okay.
Because it depends really how in the person is in the church. So there's different levels of feeling welcomed within a church.
Yeah.
And so we do the whole everyone's welcome. But then if you're gay, you're not really. And then if you're from a different nationality, we don't really cater for your language or your lifestyle.
Some churches do.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And then there's different levels of that, okay? And then it's the more you're like us, the more welcome you are, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely struggled with the concept of religion. I've actually talked about it openly on here, because I never knew that you could be spiritual without being religious. And when I had that realization, I was like, oh, holy shit, this is great.
Yeah, it is.
I can pray to a higher power, or a God of my own understanding. This is epic.
I did this meditation session recently, and the lady said, I want you to think of a divine being for this exercise. And I'm sitting there going, I don't believe in a divine being anymore. And she said, a divine being that's all powerful. And you know what I thought was, that's myself. It's the future version of me that I'm not strong enough to be yet.
Do you define yourself by your future self?
Yeah, I do. That's how I see myself, as being able to do the things I can't yet do in my life.
Have you ever been through a period where you've defined yourself by your past self?
I would say yes. Yeah, because I think I inherently thought that I was broken based on my past when I was religious. And then as I've become free from that, I don't really see, that's a big change that I hadn't noticed in a way that I see myself.
Define your future self.
Yeah, that's big. Strong, empowered, confident. Not that different to me now.
Epic.
Yeah.
It's great. You seem like it.
Maybe a bit more grey. Few more tattoos.
No, I'm sort of prying you a little bit because I know for me personally, I often defined myself by my past experiences. I was like, like this happened to me and this happened to me. So like, this is who I am, or I did something that was not cool, unsavory. And I was like, well, I'm that kind of person, that's who I am. I'm a scumbag.
Easy to do. We've all been there.
I'm a piece of shit. I did that, that wasn't nice. Like,
we've all got that stuff.
And it's so limiting and holds you back so much. And it did for years. Like you roll around in that guilt and that shame and that remorse.
Yeah. That's part of the whole religious trauma too, is we view ourselves as inherently bad or what we would call sinful. And that's the values, I guess the guilt we feel for the things that we have done that we're not proud of, which everyone has.
Okay, here we go. Let's say the church actually got with the times in our evolving world, okay, and started to be more inclusive of various nationalities, sexualities, genders. Would you then go back to the church?
It's a good question, and it's something I've considered. Obviously, because my best friend runs a church.
That's what I mean. Like the obvious one is like, let's say, like they're more accepting of homosexuals.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's just not. Well, I think there's multiple levels to the answer to that question. The first is I have genuine religious trauma. So the idea of going to any organisation that's considered a church these days, I just don't think I could do I just don't want to put myself in a situation that's not good for my well-being.
It triggers you?
Yeah, for sure it would. I just wouldn't even consider it. Do you know what I mean? For that reason. But I think if I could somehow magically find a potion or pill that would put that aside, I don't feel the need for it in my life. I guess a big part of the reason I was involved in church was because it was my community. And I have such a beautiful community of people that I know outside of that. And I feel like the world is so much bigger than that. And I don't feel that my beliefs fit that worldview anymore. So I just don't see a point of me returning to that place.
Yeah, like you've moved past it. You've evolved.
Yeah,
you've evolved past it.
I also look at it, and as I said before about things being seasonal, and in that period of my life, it served me and I served it well. And that's ironic because I say it also caused me trauma, but yet I do think that it was an important part of my life.
I love that you use that seasonal. My mum says that. She's like, life comes in seasons, like. She's a guru, in my opinion. She's a legend.
She sounds great.
She is, she's an amazing woman. And yeah, it's true. Nothing, like this world is dynamic. It's ever changing. And just as like your mental health is dynamic, you're never going to be stuck in that dark place forever.
That's right.
And I listen to I'm calling it the best podcast I've listened to this year. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's a pop singer, well, she's not a pop singer, she's a folk singer, Jewel, I want to talk about.
So good.
And she tells her life story on Joe Rogan, who is a good podcaster. He's like probably the biggest podcaster in the world, and like he gets a bit of criticism these days. But she tells this story about how she, homeless, victim of domestic violence growing up, and through her teen years was having just panic attacks constantly with the anxiety levels through the roof, constant suicidal ideation, just really just didn't know how she was going to function in this world. She went to this lake to kill herself, and she sat there contemplating how she was going to do it for hours and hours. And in that time, she watched the tide go all the way out, and it was just like no water left in the lake. And then she's sitting there hours in this terrible panic attack state, and then during the time she watched the tide come all the way in. And she just had this moment. It was like the tide always comes back in. It's just like, fuck, that's really cool.
I have a tattoo that says that the sun will rise, we will try again.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like every day, like it's I know it's cliche, but cliches are cliches for a reason because they're true.
It was a thing for me because I used to find nighttime so difficult and so long because I just couldn't get sleep. And so I would just remember that the sun will rise, we will try again. And when the sun rose, I always felt better. And because it was over the night, you know, and the night was the hardest bit. So it was just important to me, that promise, you know. Yeah, the sun will rise tomorrow, you know.
Was there times when that was all you had?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I would dread the nighttime because I would know that the darkness was coming. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but like, do you know how healing that would be for a lot of people to hear you say that?
Yeah.
Who have experienced it or are currently experiencing it?
And it's okay because it is really difficult. The darkness is absolutely soul crushing. And you do honestly think there's no way through this, and I can't find a way to live a life that will be any better, or I just don't have anything left within myself anymore. Or just layers of grief. Grief is all encompassing, and when we lose people, there's nothing anyone can do to fix that because they're not coming back, and that's what we all want in grief, right? And so it's just like a massive river that you just feel like if anyone tries to help, it's like they're trying to empty that ocean with a little eye drop, and it's just not going to make a difference, you know. I don't know what the answers really are, but I just know that in time you find a way through that ocean. And I actually feel like in time you can actually sit in a little boat on that ocean and feel its peace, which is really strange.
That's a rad analogy.
Yeah, I got a tattoo of that one too.
Are your tattoos a life story?
Yes, I've 70 of them.
So for those of you obviously can't see Evie, she's adorned in many beautiful tattoos, each with its own meaning, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
All significant of life experiences?
Yeah.
Wow.
All significant people, yeah.
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 Cool. I want to talk about your poetry a little bit. So you're a poet, you like to write poetry. Obviously, you'd regard it as a form of therapy for yourself?
100%, yeah. Yeah.
What's the feedback you often get on your poetry? How would it be described?
I didn't know that somebody else would feel that way, or you put into words what I couldn't say.
Well, there's regular feedback on. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And that was so surprising to me because I when I began to write, I had to write. I didn't feel I had a choice in it. I would get these words and I had to write them down, and I was like vomit coming out of me. Like I just had to spill these words onto a page, right? And I wrote every day for months and months. And now I write not that often because I prefer to listen to what other people have to say now because I feel like I have told my story enough that I feel like I'm okay with it. And so I want to give other people the pen to write now, you know?
Yeah.
But I also find that they get the pen by me sharing my story because they go, oh, when I hear your poetry, I can start my own, you know? And the thing is, I would never have said that I'm a poet. Like, I just wrote, and that's the thing all of us can do. You just pick up a pen and you just let your mind write whatever it writes. And sometimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's really ugly and you just don't show people those ones.
I love that. My friend Kirk Jenkins, who's an artist, he said to me, the best bit of advice was like, he goes, someone said to him, just like do 100 different do 100 artworks, right? And then just like don't show anyone because they'll all be shit. And then by about number 101, like you'll do one that's half decent and you want to show people.
You know what's funny? The book I've put together is literally everything I've written.
Well, tell us about that.
It's called Evie Unseen, The Hidden Ones. and is literally just the stories of my life, little snippets. And I haven't filtered it at all. I thought about it because I thought, oh, good writer's supposed to write 3 drafts or whatever it is, and like, you know. And then I thought, no, that's the point of this journey, is it's supposed to be about sharing the hidden parts of yourself. And if I filter those, I'm going to filter bits out. And so I put it all together off the notes section on my phone because that's what I was writing in.
Dude, I use that for I use the notes section for all my bios. I use it, yeah.
And I put it together and I went, this is it. And so I sent it to Belinda, who works with Unseen, and she's like, it's beautiful. And she picked 3 pieces that she's put up on the Unseen website as well.
Well, let's tell us what's the website for people who want to check it out.
Yeah, sure. So it's so you go to the Unseen website, which is unseen.house. Okay. So, and then if you click on the women's stories, you'll be able to see each of the women that are listed here. And so my profile is under Evie, and then there's a few of my poems posted there as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what's the future for the book?
So ideally, we want to publish it next year because we'll have an exhibition in New South Wales Parliament. And so around that time, we want to launch the book then. Yeah.
So, okay, well, why is there an exhibition in New South Wales Parliament?
Yeah, good question. So it's a place where women haven't had a voice for a long time, and especially women that have been unseen in society. And so they have a gallery there, which you may not know about. And so we went, can we have the gallery for a period of time? And
amazing.
So our work will be exhibited there. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
That's
and
good.
Primarily it's women telling the stories.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Raising awareness.
Yeah.
And building empathy and understanding.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's 2 points. It's one, for women to go, oh, that's me and I didn't realise. And 2, it's for people that haven't experienced this to be able to understand what it's like. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, I just kind of feel like everything just comes back to empathy in our society. Like the more we can like understand or put ourselves in someone's shoes, the nicer we're going to be. And then that's going to, and the more we understand where someone else is coming from, like that's going to guide better decision making.
I think so.
But especially in regards to the vulnerable.
I think so,
And I heard an awesome quote. I love this quote. It said, the true measure of the success of a society is by how it treats the most vulnerable. You know, and I just thought that's a great quote. So
I think that's very true. And I think the only way we can learn empathy is by listening to people's stories.
Yes.
Because we're giving people a voice, and I can't know what life's like for you if I haven't heard you tell me.
100%.
Because I can't know just by thinking I know.
Yeah.
Empathy is a feeling. It's not a logic. I can only know a feeling if I sit with you enough to feel something when I'm with you.
And really listen.
Yeah.
Not just wait to speak.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
Put the ego aside.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I work on regularly too, like really listening as opposed to like waiting to speak, and then that's my ego just trying to assert some kind of dominance in the situation. It's really interesting.
Yeah. And sometimes we're a bit afraid of the silence if we do that, because there will be a period of silence, because it's like I'm processing what you're saying, and then I'm thinking of how I'll respond.
Yes.
It's not, and so our conversation is very quick, back and forth, when I'm not listening to you properly, but I'm thinking how I'll respond, but I'm not processing.
Exactly.
And so when there's a silence, it's actually okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there is a skill to it, you know, and the only way you can refine it is just through practice.
Yeah.
You know, like making time to go, hey, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a chat. We're going to talk, and you're going to talk and I'm going to listen. And then you identify with elements of what they're saying, and then that's healing. I say this all the time. Like, I don't know why, but when you identify with someone else's story, it's this immediate reduction of feelings of isolation.
Yeah.
And it's just so like,
I think when people feel seen and when people feel heard, it's the first step to them feeling healing. So,
yeah.
I think that's where it comes from.
And that's what you're trying to do with Unseen.
Yeah. Do you want me to read you some of my poems?
Well, you know what's funny? I was going to ask you, but I didn't want to make you feel uncomfortable. But yeah, the answer is yes. Go.
Okay.
What's it called? Go.
So I have 3 here that we published on the Unseen website.
Epic.
And so I'll read them all to you because I feel like they are a good succession of my story. Okay, so the first one. Okay. I wonder, Nan, if you were scared when he threw that plate and it hit your head. I wonder how many times it happened before. I wonder how you became brave enough to walk out that door. I wonder, Grandy, if you knew how this would end. I know the battle you had was unbearable in your head. His voices and taunts made you lose who you were, and for this kind of abuse there really is no cure. I wonder, my sister, how you stayed so long, so much injustice and so much done wrong. I hated the way he treated you. I know you thought we didn't have a clue. I wonder why I felt loved by him when control and power were his demise. I wonder why he won't let me go. I wonder if freedom is something I'll ever know. The stories of the women behind me carry heavy on my shoulders. They are more real to me as I get older. I wonder how many more generations will endure the same fate until we can trust someone will keep us safe. See, I've done all I can, but I cannot do it all alone. There's unjust systems and manipulation and broken bones. I need you to stand with me and keep me safe. I need you to help us end this madness for my son's sake. I wonder when you'll choose to come sit with me, to connect with this darkness and heaviness and to face this truth. It doesn't take much. It begins with listening and openness, a path of freedom paved towards a glorious future free from his mess. This next one I wrote based on my GP and the practice that he's created called The Village. He's an incredible man that's created a very safe space for me over the last 3 years, and I'm very grateful for him. And I call this piece The Village, but I also feel like this is what we all need in life. It takes one to raise us. It takes one to empower us to stand on our own 2 feet again. It takes one to find recovery, to begin to hope again, to believe things can be different. The village is a space, most importantly, a safe space. You are safe here to have space. Space to think, space to be, unveiled, mask away, just be. Whatever it is you need to. Space to lament, to grieve, space to laugh, to smile, space to believe again, to hope again, and space to find yourself somehow. The village is a gift to me, a gift of myself back, a gift of seeing goodness again in the world, a gift of recognising my own strength, a gift of acceptance, a gift of discovering my own worth, a gift of life. The village is what holds us when the pieces are fragmented and we can no longer hold them ourselves. The glass shatters and the shards cut us deep. The village removes the shards and heals the cuts. And the village walks alongside us until the pain passes. The village is a gift, an invitation to a better life, an invitation to recovery, an invitation to a different way, an invitation to wellness, wholeness, safety and freedom, an invitation to just be, to be me in whatever state, in every season and in every way I need to be. I am beyond thankful I am part of this village. And then this last one is called I Am. I am proud of every moment that I spoke instead of shoving it down. My shameful moments of rebellion are brilliant banners on my castle walls. I'm proud of who I am, of who I have become. I am remarkably strong. I can rebuild. I am intelligent. I have so much to give that makes this world a better place. If it had to all fall apart for me to discover me, I would do it again, all of it. Justice is the only way this world is made right. I still believe it. I always will. Finding me is standing on my own 2 feet, knowing my worth, knowing my strength, claiming and owning my body as beautiful as mine. Authenticity makes me shine. I'm proud of my style. I reclaim my body as mine. My tattoos tell these stories. Metamorphosis, courage, crazy brave, nevertheless, she persisted. I'm finding my freedom, freedom from guilt, from rules, from judgment, from religion. but I am most proud that I walked away despite being terrified every step. I am most proud that I told you through my actions that I deserve more than your mistreatment. I am proud that I stood up to you and that I continue to do so every day as I dance out here in freedom. What a beautiful dance this is.
Lovely. Thank you. That was fantastic. You're the first person to ever read poetry on the podcast.
Yay!
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's confronting for me to listen to as a male.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just sit there, I said it. It's hard for me to hear.
Thank you for saying that.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's been epic.
Yeah.
I'm just like so grateful for you and for your time and your willingness. And I ask all guests to come to the podcast with a cause they want to support or advocate for. Have you anything for us today?
Yeah, for sure. So a great local organisation in the northern suburbs of the Illawarra, the Eve Project. Helen and Lisa have been integral parts of my own journey, but they support women who've experienced trauma back into employment. But they do this through such a holistic process where they really walk alongside women. When you've experienced trauma, you really don't have any view of yourself anymore or your skills or abilities. And so there's so much in life that you've missed out on. And they are like mother hens that gather us and walk with us along the journey. And they are doing incredible work and have the best understanding of how to work with trauma that I've ever seen. So I highly recommend their work. But basically what they do is catering as well. Amazing, the best food, organic, wholesome meals. So you can support their social enterprise through purchasing meals from them, having them cater at your events. You can support them by, running an event where you fundraise for them. But they are some of the best people I know and really do an incredible job of understanding what it's like for women to need to find work and rebuild their life. Yeah.
Amazing. Is there a website?
Yes. Let me just get that up.
Because I'm just getting my notes section out and I'm going to jot it down. So I'll put a link to I'll put this link in the...
Okay, so it's the Eve Project, TheEveProject.org.au.
Wonderful. And I'll put a link to the Eve Project in this episode's show notes. So if you scroll down, whatever platform you're listening to on, you'll find a link. Get on, be involved. I always believe action and activism is better than donating. But if you want to just donate, that's good too. Get involved and be part of a community that's empowering people. So I love that. And listen, I ask all guests to come with the cause. Sorry, I'm a bit... I just said that. But also... You can find this episode on terriblehappytalks.com and all the major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. And whatever platform you like to listen to this podcast on, please subscribe. It always helps. And lastly, I have a present for you from our friends from Indosol. We'll send you a pair of flip-flops or slides made from recycled motor vehicle tyres. So thanks, Indosol.
Thank you. I love shoes. I'm so excited.
Yeah, they're doing their bit for the environment and, they're a rad company.
That's awesome. Thanks.
I don't know, man. Is that it? Saturday night, going out into the streets and start screaming for no reason.
Maybe we should. It can be healing.
Like, what's next for you in the immediate future?
People ask me that, like, they're like, oh, you're going to move on to something really big next. And I'm like, I'm really happy where I am.
Yeah.
I think probably getting the book published.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's my next thing to do. And the documentary that we're working on with Unseen, which is us telling our stories in the form of a documentary too.
The visual aspect.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's
Filming
great.
starts next week.
Really?
Yeah.
You nervous?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm the kind of person that won't think about it till the night before.
Great.
And then I'll go, oh my God.
That's how I roll.
Yeah.
Sometimes the hour before.
Yes. Yeah.
No, but like, I think you'll be fantastic. And will you read your poetry on that?
I think that's the plan. Yeah.
Was this a practice?
Yeah.
It's so good it's in Parliament.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I hate politicians, but is this something good that the government's doing? Like, do you feel like this is a supportive act or is it tokenistic?
Well, it's hard to know at this point.
Yeah, true.
But I think that there is a lot of work that the government is trying to do towards creating a safer place for women, or at least having supports available for women when they do leave at the moment. And we're talking about that a lot more, and we're seeing change. And so I think whenever we're seeing change, we need to celebrate change, because that comes hard fought. Yeah.
That's positive.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think we're done, man.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
Nah, it's been great talking.
You too. It's such a pleasure. Okay, I'm going to cue the outro music.
Okay.
No laughing, okay? You just laughed.
You can't tell me not to laugh.